Hey guys, welcome to the Holy Hour Podcast. This is the All Cure Podcast, the bi-weekly All Cure Podcast, where we talk about cure stuff. And as we hinted at last episode, we are closing in on the very epic Cure album, Disintegration. And we really wanted to try to approach this in as many different ways as we could for the next few episodes here before Donald and I officially dive into the album review of Disintegration. So, we are very lucky to have a very special friend, guest, musician, friend, wonderful mother, and all-around good person, Emily. How's it going?
It's going great. Glad to be here.
Thanks so much for joining us. I know this is a bit of an experiment episode, we've decided. So yeah, before we dive into what we're going to try to spin on this Disintegration angle here, if you don't mind me hanging in there for a second while I do some Cure news. There has been rumors going around, so I just wanted to address real quick before we get started that Mixed Up is on the rumor mill for Record Store Day as a release, probably like a vinyl release, because it's been real hard to get on vinyl. So everyone's like, we need these remixes. But the cool part is that they're hinting that there's going to be a bonus disc with all kinds of songs that we haven't heard remixed before over the years. The original Mixed Up album came out in like 90, so pretty close to this time frame. And these are all going to be remixes. At one point he was saying he's getting his favorite bands to remix the songs. And there's one song from every album, all 13 albums, and maybe a few bonus tracks. So they're going to announce it on the 6th, which I think is like, 2 days from now? So,
yeah.
So it'll either be official or totally irrelevant by the time this posts. So, but we're very excited. We hope that's the case. And the Meltdown Festival is also going to get announced here pretty soon, so we'll see what's up with that. But not why we're here today. What do you think of remixes? Are you a fan of remixes?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got one.
I mean, yeah. If you got a song that sounds good,
Yeah.
if you want to groove on it a little bit longer, that's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of how I feel too. I think it's like if it's a good song, then you can do anything with it. Put a dance beat behind it, just make it longer. That's kind of what they do too. Like a lot of their remixes for singles and stuff are kind of just extended remixes, they call them. And it's kind of annoying. Usually not the most go-to thing for me for the song, but if you hear them, it's kind of nice to hear a super long version. But so we'll see. People were really torn on Mixed Up when it came out. People were like, what the hell? One of these like remix versions of this? It was like right after their big peak of Disintegration 2. So let's focus on Disintegration and tell these good people what we're up to with this plan. And Disintegration, on the surface, is kind of just known as the Cure's most epic, successful album. So like they had the build-up with Kiss Me, the album right before, where it went platinum, I think eventually. It was kind of like their big breakthrough into pop and, alternative, but like really broke them through. And then this one sold the most and really broke them through, like with live shows and alternative side of everything became huge. And then like the next album was like their big commercial album, but it kind of started their more kind of return down the slope, if you will. So this is kind of the peak, basically, for lack of better words and stuff. So a lot of people love this album. Some people have some issues, but we're going to address it. Instead of just addressing the album, we thought it would be cool to give the people some background here. If you haven't followed me on the show here, my situation with this album and The Cure is that it came out in 1989, as a lot of you out there probably know. I was in 6th grade at the time, and my situation was that I had gotten into The Cure before this album came out, but after the other one was already out for a while. So I was like a diehard fan, but this was like the first one where I was like anticipating a release. I was like, I can't wait. And I was in 6th grade, which I think is like 12 years old. I started trying to narrow it down, like 11 or 12, something like that. So just a wee lad, and probably should have had better things to worry about than like what Cure album was coming out. But huge deal for me. And so closing in on this year, it dawned on me that it was 29 years this year. So I've been listening to this fucking album for 29 years. It's a bit exhausting to even say out loud. And for those of you that follow Donald on the show, my buddy in 6th grade, I met him in 6th grade. And as though he often wants to erase from history, but that was the year that I started to get him to like the Clash and the Misfits and get him away from Def Leppard and Guns N' Roses, his heavy metal music he was into at the time. And even in the very first episode of this show, I tried to remember how, because I'm real big on making mixes and stuff. I was like, I must have made him like a Cure mix or something to turn him onto it. And I'm like, no. And then it just dawned on us that I actually just copied Disintegration for him. So that was like the actual album that like turned Donald onto the Cure too. So we realized we've been talking about this album for 29 years, so we need a fresh ears perspective, and that is the very long-winded point of this episode. So we turned out, Emily and I were chatting a while back. I was like, maybe she hasn't heard Disintegration at least all the way through, right? So
yeah, right.
So yeah, we thought it'd be fun to have you give it a listen or two, and then talk about it and see. Is it really worth listening to for 29 years? Am I totally just nuts and it's all sentimental value? Or is it, in fact, the greatest album that's ever been recorded, which I have gone on the record as saying, and I think I still agree that not only is it the best Cure album, but it's the best album ever recorded by anyone. Beatles, Mozart, any of them. So that might be a bit of a bold statement, but I have to agree with it. With myself. So, but before we dive into your opinion, and I'm going to stop talking so much, but we figured maybe we'll get Emily's background, see where she was coming from on this long journey to Disintegration before your life changed when you listened to Disintegration. So yeah, let's go back to 6th grade. We don't have to go back to maybe your birth or anything, but where were you at in 6th grade?
Well, I was thinking about where I was in 1989.
Yeah, man, that's a better.
And I think I may have been like 4th grade, but I was 10.
Yeah.
And I think I was like listening to like Kokomo.
Yeah.
Beach Boys Kokomo, and like Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and Skid Row, and then like I think New Kids was coming out, but I didn't like New Kids. Yeah. Because I was hardcore more.
Yeah, screw that.
I was a Skid Row fan.
Skid Row and Motley Crue were probably technically way more progressive than listening to The Cure as a youngster. That's pretty rad.
I had older siblings, so I just liked what they liked.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen how that's like it's always like when we do origin stories and stuff of the Cure stuff, trying to figure out when people heard this or that, and we always like to start with what they were listening to anyway, and early on, and it's usually like a friend or a sibling, usually the older sibling, like in my case, not with the Cure, but just music in general, and you kind of just get some stuff from this person and that person, and it's strange when it's, some people like make it super late in life before they care about any album, but if you have those friends and siblings when you're a youngster, it's crazy the difference. So yeah, Kokomo, can't deny that. And I was, so again, we're saying we won't disclose your age, but a few years younger. So you're kind of roughly in the same boat though, and we definitely had the Kokomo single. I think I said single like 15 times in the last episode. I have to adjust that because I realized how awkward that is when I was listening back.
Because we had the record single,
you have that? Okay.
And I don't even know what that's
It's a
called.
45?
Cool, 45,
cool. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, my mom was huge on Kokomo, so we indirectly heard a lot of Kokomo and Linda Ronstadt at the time. I don't know if that was 89 too, maybe around there. The Aaron Neville duet.
Oh yeah.
I don't know much. Did that
I love you.
Yeah. Those are her jams. So I know I had to like put up with that if I was going to be able to like play the Cure in the car too. So like, I can't be slamming Kokomo, if I want to get my tunes on. So that's cool. And so let's see. What about that age? Do you think any of those, have they stretched into like my weird scenario here where I'm still pretty much... Honestly, I think I could say that I listen to Disintegration still like every week at least.
Wow.
It probably comes on in some form or another at least. There's vacations and stuff where I miss something. But anything from around that era still in your favorites even?
I mean,
scattered singles.
Yeah, well, I mean, I still love Guns N' Roses and all that stuff, which is, and then like, maybe U2 is happening. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I can't really totally still say I love U2, but
that era of U2, maybe.
Yeah.
Because that must have been around like Rattling Home and stuff, right? Was it? Or Joshua Tree was a little earlier, I think. But
Joshua Tree was the one. Yeah, for me.
Right on.
Yeah.
So some scattered stuff still in there, but also. But not your diehard favorites, probably.
They come a little later in life. They come later. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask, too, like, it's always fun to see it. If you had a podcast devoted to any one band, do you have a all-time favorite, whether it was from way back then, or, like, somebody you got into even recently?
Yeah, that's a hard one. It changes so much for me. I don't stick with anything. And then I feel like I had this whole, like, big change where I was, like, Radiohead, you know, for so long, and stuff like that was like all I wanted to hear. And then like recently in the last few years I was like, I just want like happy music now.
It's funny with that too, and I'm definitely in the same way, even though I had my constants like The Cure and The Smiths were always there, and you know I had like my top 5, but then definitely like phases, like even 90s I got more into like just guitar rock stuff, and you know I'd always loved The Cure, but they would be a little more of like just the angels sitting on my shoulder as opposed to stuff that I was constantly throwing on, you know, and then like country rock even and stuff, which totally doesn't fit for a lot of Cure fans, you know, but that was about as weird as I got. Then even as I get older now, I'm just like regressed, I guess, back to I'll just talk about The Cure constantly and listen to that. But that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I changed, so like Beck would have been somebody I'm at some point would have felt that way about.
Do the Beck podcast.
At some point I would have. Yeah, not
so
anymore.
That's cool. So I guess we'll just approaching this album and Cure-ness in general. What it was, any preconceived Cure-ness? I'm assuming probably just from, at least if nothing else, crossing paths with me, that the name has popped up and you're familiar at least with the band.
I think it was 8th grade when Friday I'm in Love came out, and so I definitely was obsessed with that song.
Okay, cool.
And I've always, I like some of the hits. But never really listened to any albums.
So singles have popped up, like Just Like Heaven and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, it's funny, with Friday I'm in Love, that was like, we fairly recently did an episode just on that and just how like divisive it is, and like,
really?
Yeah, and it's just like, because it's so poppy, I think a lot of the like diehards are a little like weary of it, if not totally against it, but it's crazy how many like fans it got like on the hook, and just like people that love like the dark stuff even, and like later will be like, Friday I'm in Love, whatever, but that was the one that hooked me, So it's funny, you can bash the poppy stuff all you want, but if that's what leads you into the cave, it's definitely worth its weight in gold. And that was the big single off the next album. So, pretty cool. So so fairly familiar with them in general. Then the Image, then probably. It's always curious to know how much the Image impacts. Like, had you seen many of the videos or anything? Did you watch much MTV?
I did. I remember seeing some of the videos. They're not like, I feel like I don't know. I don't remember them though. I've definitely seen them and like seen him dude. And like, is it a lot just them playing? I mean,
they usually try to come up with some scenario, but it's usually just him kind of wandering around somewhere or something.
I can picture that. I can picture him wandering
around and hanging out in some location. They usually just put them in some kind of room and let them do their thing. But, but they have good videos, I think, because a lot of people probably just see the image of him and think, which is weird because it does kind of match up with the Disintegration vibe in a sense, where it's like, oh, this just overly dark Edward Scissorhands looking dude that's like takes himself way too seriously, which is kind of the complete opposite. I mean, they get super moody, and he definitely gets like emotional and would stand by everything he's saying, I think, but like you see like a really goofy side in him through songs like Friday I'm in Love and stuff. I think that's why those are great, because you kind of see that later side of him too, and you see he's just kind of this dude that happens to have this unique look, and it doesn't really define the sound of the band and stuff. So I think a lot of people really kind of latch on to that look and and think that is what the sound of the band is all about. So it's curious to see what other people's perspectives are.
Yeah, definitely. That is a part of, definitely when I think of the band, I think of that.
Yeah, it's strange because if he was just some totally normal like Phil Collins looking dude, I wonder what like an album like Disintegration would sound like. You know, like if it would even hurt the way it sounds or something. If he's just like some like super boring looking dude.
It does affect. It definitely affects.
Yeah,
like it can ruin something.
Yeah,
you know, it can
sure.
definitely ruin things sometimes.
And yeah, you'd almost think they wouldn't be able to pull off like a poppy song if you look that dramatic and serious. You know, like people wouldn't take it serious or something. But it almost works better.
Although. It is a dramatic and serious, but it's also just kind of, I'd say it like more theatrical. You know? That's the way I see it.
I think that's probably what he's going for more too. I think it's like they've always been fairly conscious, like early on, like they did like 3 albums or so that were like definite like goth albums, even though they would still fight the title a bit more. You know,
do they
like,
fight that title?
Yeah. It's like he kind of like I think embraces it in the sense that he knew that they were kind of defining the genre early on, but they're just a rock band that did some weird dark shit, had a weird look, you know. And then, but I mean, that all was like from the span of like 1980 to, you know, it was pretty much done by like 84 even. Then they were just doing like weird pop stuff the way they do now, but he just kind of kept the look, you know. So I think. So I mean, there was moments when he would definitely be a little more defensive in interviews, going like, "We're not goth." I was like, "Everybody would quit saying that," you know. It's like we have peppy, weird songs that use like synth flutes and stuff. You can't be pop or you can't be goth when you do that. But so yeah, it's weird. But I mean, he's got to kind of know that that's a lot of his core audience too. So he doesn't want to totally piss them off. So So that's cool. So yeah, maybe Disintegration then going into it and seeing what it was like dead. So yeah, how about singles and stuff as far as familiarity of this actual album? Were there ones that you had heard from this as you went through it or looked at? We're like, oh yeah, that song.
Definitely I heard, is it called Love Song?
Yeah.
I definitely heard that one. That's a great song, you know.
Yeah, that was the biggest hit they've had other than like depending on the chart, like that and Friday I'm in Love were their 2 biggest chart hits or whatever, which is a bit odd. We'll get into that, but yeah, so yeah, you had heard that then on the radios throughout the day and stuff.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if I'd heard anything else. Really,
cool.
It all seemed kind of new.
Yeah, awesome, cool. Yeah, because Disintegration was kind of, or Love Song was a bit all over the place like at that time when it broke big. Which is weird because it makes more sense for like Friday I'm in Love or something to be like the big pop hit you would just hear on the radio and see the video and stuff.
Yeah.
But, even though Love Song has a cool groove and everything to it.
It's got a hook.
Yeah,
you know.
That bass line.
It's that bass line.
Cool. So what approach did you take? Did you find it online and kind of just stream it? So,
I
cool.
found it online.
Awesome. So maybe we dive into initial response. Maybe?
Sure.
What'd you think? Let's see, overall first listen through, just kind of in general, what did you think? Were like any drastic opinions one way or the other?
Overall first?
Yeah.
Okay.
How many times did you listen? Did you kind of just
like
one
5?
and you're done?
Like 5? Yeah.
All right, I'm done. I made it. Jesus. That's cool.
I mean, the first time was like, I like it affected me a lot. The first time I was kind of like, I had like made a social faux pas that day, and I was like a little worried about it. And that the music really just like it really spoke to that to me. I was like, it kind of hurts, you know. It was like it was really speaking to that in a really clear way, but maybe it was just where I was at. But that feeling of kind of I don't know, isolation or something, or like being like, you know,
like awkwardness or
I
think that's definitely a core element in their bread and butter, but
and that was really, I don't know, that cool. Was
it's weird. Maybe to touch on that idea of like like why the fuck I'm always constantly in kind of the core reason for even doing this podcast of endless episodes of like, why has this band still relevant to me even, you know, like people aside, and like what the hell is so great about them that like kind of agree with, you know, that it's something where I could listen to it in 6th grade. You know, everybody hopefully has changed a lot since 1989 and their 6th grade year or whatever. and I definitely feel that I'm in that boat, but at the same time, there's like, I don't know, and I think like it changes a lot, like what I get out of it, but I'm always getting something out of it. That's what's weird, and it's definitely a huge part of that is the awkwardness, which unfortunately I haven't totally abandoned since being an awkward kid, you know, like that, isolation and just feeling like I'm just not fitting in, I'm not doing this, and
I think something
really about the songs
to that. It really speaks to that trying, and it's really hard.
Yeah,
it's like I can't quite do it, but I'm trying to connect, you know, like it.
It's awesome, that you picked up on that, because it is like a lot of it, even though the lyrics I think definitely touch on a lot of that, it's more like the music and stuff and just the tones of that, you know, and it just feels like you've got this ground with cracks on it, and this is like the liquid that fills in the gaps. I don't know if that analogy makes any sense, but like where it kind of holds it together, you know, in a sense. It's like, okay, I'm not just these pieces floating around. This could hold me. He's saying it, you know.
Yeah,
he's making me feel this, and I'm, you know.
You're not alone.
Yeah, and I think a huge part of adolescence and why they were so big and are hopefully to kids still. I don't know if the kids of today would be able to really embrace this, but I mean, that was, you know, you hear endless stories of people, and definitely was the case for me, and I'm sure Donald was just like that, fitting in and feeling like you know, same thing you hear with like the Smiths and New Order and Joy Division and all this, where you're just like, finally someone understands me kind of thing, you know, and even though it's like lyrically it could be a billion different things too, so
it's kind of
that's cool. So after the bummer awkward first day, it worked, and then did it kind of just keep along that vein for each listen, or did it change?
No, like I think I listened to it while I was making chili the first time, and then the second time it was like late at night. Had a couple beers, and it felt really good. It felt like it had a good flow to it. And I think when I was just sitting there just listening to it, it was a little. The intros to the songs are so long. You know what I mean? Like there's so much music, and then the songs kind of like, I don't know if every song's like this, but I noticed it at least a few times.
Yeah, they do it a lot, especially on this album. But
and like that. When you're just alone listening to it is one thing, and then if you're like sitting with someone talking, like, that's a nice like just vibe to have in the background. Whereas if you know, it's a whole different thing to sit there and really just be with that. I can get kind of you know, impatient for the song to start a little bit, but you know, in a different context, if it's good, you know. And I was really thinking about what was that like for them to. It's long, you know, and it stays in this mood that whole time. Although you know, kind of the hits come in and it flows. It's like okay, that's. That helps. Like it's nice to have it's like
break it up well, but it's still definitely.
But it still stays in that in that place.
Even Love Song, and he's like even said in interviews, he's like, I know having Love Song on there was crazy. It was like this big poppy jam in the middle of this really kind of serious. I'm like, I don't know. It is like a cool groove and everything, but it's still definitely
in there.
Yeah, it's like a sincere. You can tell, like, you know, passionate love song in a sense, but he really does seem in the video he's gradually just kind of falling over while he's singing it. And it feels that way.
That's how it feels.
So it's definitely not like Friday I'm in love, happy go lucky, I love this girl kind of thing. It's like, oh, I'm always like you don't really know if it's gonna work out or something.
Right.
It's like, is this like totally already like a done deal or what's going on here, man? But it's funny you said that, because it is definitely another huge thing with just the way that the songs build and like and they're kind of notorious for that, where it's cool because it breaks, especially for me being like just growing up on like pop songs, you know, like the yin of the yang of the Cure of the Kokomo versus where it seems weird, you know, like having a song that does take at least half of the song on some of it before like the verses, but before the lyrics kick in, you know, and it's just like
so different.
And they'll just kind of like basically what would be the third verse is where he starts singing, and it's just like one verse, you know, and it's like and it doesn't feel awkward, and it just seems like it's a weird pace, and it's like okay, now they're just kind of doing it, you know, and and I think that adds to the mood thing a lot for the music and what they're going for. But they do that a lot, even on like poppy, faster songs. It's kind of notorious for that, which is cool because you don't really see that in a lot of other bands, and even bands similar in the genre, even like New Order and stuff, don't really do that often, and it's pretty weird. So that's cool. So yeah, and like you're saying too, where you can really dive in if you're alone or if you're just hanging out with friends, like you can just throw stuff on and like Fascination Street or something where it just has like you can just kind of be cool background music, but you're not really like digging in listening versus like just really zoning into the chimes and everything. I think that's why I love it for so long, and longevity is because it really is like whatever you bring into the album too is a huge part of it, and it's like I'm sure every album's sort of like that to a certain degree, but yeah, I mean, I really do feel like it's like whatever you're bringing in, and then whatever mood you're in. There's a lot of conditions that can vary over the listens of how you want to dive into this, and that's cool because it makes it hard to get sick of. Well, that's cool. So yeah, good chili making music then. No, better for beer.
Late night beer. I mean, I just didn't want to be like in pain while I was making the chili. So, cool.
So yeah, I mean, I guess along those lines, then that's kind of the other, like, even though I love it and I see that there are singles that keep it grooving and cool musicianship and stuff, do you feel like then it is safe to say it's a very like down, like bummer kind of album, or do you have like the overall mood? Because it is very cohesive, right? Would you agree with that? That it's like, that's what I love about, like, because I love singles and stuff, but like you gotta respect like an album that's just like constant mood through the whole thing.
It's
I'm just
nice
like, damn,
to know what you're
got the whole package. And I even have, as much as I love it, there's times where I'm like, I can't do Disintegration right now. I gotta just throw the singles on or something, it's like a whole. But so you agree that it was pretty cohesive then? So,
definitely, it's a mood. The whole thing is, but it does give you a little reprieve from like the dark, deep down stuff, the deep cuts,
which is cool because it is the balance of the singles, and I think that's like a good level where they were at a band too, where they can kind of bring you up for air a little bit with like a few of the singles and stuff. Which is funny because I don't know how obvious it was that which ones were the singles for you listening, or is it? There was like 4. It was probably fairly when they came up. You could probably see.
Yeah, I saw it on there, but I also thought "Disintegration," the song, kind of sounded like a single to me. Like that one sounded really,
it's a good rockin', peppier one. Bit more aggressive, maybe, than just saying.
Maybe, brought the energy up at that. That's kind of later on.
But I guess the initial question before I started babbling, sorry. That's why this album is dangerous for me. I'll just it's like a cat chasing its tail or something. But dogs? Who chases their tails? Did both of them?
Mostly dogs, I think.
Don't chase their tail. What am I talking about?
I don't know. Maybe they do.
But did you, was the main takeaway bummer or just kind of like heavier, like, or would you say sad? Or?
My first takeaway was like, I need to listen to it again because,
just gloomy as fuck or not?
I think it's fairly gloomy. I do because it's a lot of minor key stuff. I think it's fairly gloomy, but I think it's also kind of like a trancey kind of thing. You know, it's not necessarily sad, but it's definitely like getting down into some like other level of consciousness, or like this isn't like, that's why making chili and trying to like do like
the balance and the boils and try to keep this fun. Some chili making. I think Kiss Me, the album before it would be a better chili making. I don't know. Well, that would be a question we'll propose to other Cure fans to see what would be the ultimate chili making Cure album. But yeah, it's weird. I feel like definitely like, and it's weird, and like I've been kind of going back trying to read a lot of the stuff and like when they were recording this, and he said it was definitely like a deliberate. There's a lot of just like angles they took with it, and like, you know, he had a lot going. He was about to turn 30, like the main themes, which sounds crazy. Like, oh man, well, how crazy! It's like, really, you're going through this? You're just turning 30, man. It's like no big deal at all. But so like that, and then just like the band like having this huge success, and he didn't really want like the pop angle. He was kind of torn between that and going back to the old sounds and just having something a little more serious and dark, and trying to do that. But more importantly, on that angle, he said that when they recorded it, it very consciously did do it like in England in fall, like really wanted like that damp gray, you know, and it's like nailed it in that department. I think it's like, whatever the fuck he's struggling through, and you can listen to it in whatever mood and work out different opinions, but like that's always constant. And you know, whether it's like just kind of a reflection sadness, or maybe not even sadness, but just something heavier, where you're definitely not skipping around having a great time, but it's, you know, so that's cool. So maybe kind of a quick track by track, if you're cool. I don't want to put you on the spot of like which ones, because they'll probably blend together if you're not super familiar, but just parts of like the very first track. What do you think of the chimes that come in with the
I loved it, and I loved that the very beginning, and then like those sounds really made me think of the music from Stranger Things. Yeah. And also Twin Peaks too, a little bit, you know, which are both things that I love so much. And like you had asked me, or when you like mentioned doing this, you had said something about like, does it sound dated, or does it sound like relevant? And I would say it does sound dated, but it's also relevant because that stuff is
back now.
Right? Like, I mean...
Huh, yeah, it's weird. I definitely get the Twin Peaks thing. I remember right when Twin Peaks came out, like we'd kind of watched it, you know, I was like young enough where I was just like, this is ridiculous because it's so weird, you know, like I watched it as a comedy more than, but I loved like the music, like rushed out and got the tape of that, and just like that bass is all dum dum, it's just like similar, totally Cure bass. So that's cool.
But do you think the Stranger Things theme has a similar, like...
Yeah, definitely in that vein. I feel like they do like maybe other Cure stuff even more than Disintegration, where it has like a little bit more of like that synth stuff that they don't really use on Disintegration so much. I think of like strings, like synth strings more than like weird like Moog sounds or something. But yeah, definitely in the same vein, and I think that's what they're going for sure. They never really... Did they ever say in Stranger Things like what year in the 80s it is? I guess you could probably piece together some of the pop culture stuff if you really... I don't know how accurate they are. Or
I'm not sure.
Yeah, the chimes, I love that as like an intro, and here's the album. If
I could just look at the... Cause,
it's kind of weird the way they go around. But, so yeah, the chimes, I always feel like that's like one of the great openers, and they still stick to that. It's usually like one of 4 they pick as a live opener, and that's like still pretty much the most one that everybody I think really in their heart wants them to open with, because they just like let the chimes go forever, and you don't really know, and then like especially when you have like nosebleed seats like I usually do, you just like it's all dark and you just hear the ding ding ding, and then it's like it's almost like some like alternative synth version of the Gone with the Wind theme too. Kind of where you go from the low C to the but anyway, then it goes into my maybe all-time favorite song of all time, Pictures of You, which is a weird spin on like Just Like Heaven or something, or In Between Days, where it has all the catchiness there, but it's like 7.5 minute long song, which is crazy. And I said in the last episode they of course had to trim it down for the single, and it just doesn't feel right when you cut like the beginning off. It's like still cool because the song's so good, but yeah, I just love that one because it's just like the poetic lyrics and everything, even though it's just like everything that I love about the Cure. It's like that cool bass line, and you know, but it is long as fuck. So do you have a preference of short songs versus long songs, or just as long as it's a good song you're cool with it? Or?
I'm cool with it. I'm pretty cool with it if it's you know.
I generally lean towards shorter songs. Like I've had moments for sure of like not liking a song just because it goes on too long, but yeah, I guess I make exceptions for the Cure.
Yeah, it seems like
it's weird.
It does seem like that this is quite a bit different than a lot of the other things that I know you love.
Yeah,
you know?
It's weird. I kind of like to get to the point with a lot of music and stuff, and for some reason, but it's so weird because I feel like these songs like I'm shocked even now looking at like the track listings when I was looking at like the times and stuff. Like I think like the shortest song might be Lullaby, like the one about the spiders and shit.
Yeah.
That one's like 4 minutes or something, but it's like even that. I mean, that's pretty long compared to like especially pop stuff that I like. You know, like all that like '90s Boston rock shit that's like done in like 2.5 minutes. Songs I write, I'm like, all right, let's just get in and get out before anyone notices. But I mean, I think it just takes like a while to build because so much of this album too, I feel like the musicianship wise, I was curious of your opinion of just like the writing style and stuff. Like I said early on when I was babbling quickly, but Emily's a great musician, songwriter, and all that. So the idea of like it's a weird like I wish I could write stuff like this, but it's just so it seems like such a foreign way to write to me, where they probably just have like the beat and they come up with a bass line and just like it's almost like you're recording it while you're doing it, you know, and it's like layered the shit out of everything.
Yeah, it's kind of minimalist, you know.
Yeah,
I think of almost like a Philip Glass. I mean, I was thinking a little bit of that when I was hearing it. Is that just the layers, you know?
Yeah. Because a lot of the shit they're not, and that was a kind of a weird revelation growing up too. Because I always put this album in particular on such a pedestal, where I was just like, oh god, that's like Beethoven or something, you know? Like they must just be playing all this crazy stuff, and then I get like the sheet music book, and it's like. I'm like, it's not that hard or anything. It's just like just catchy as fuck, and then they just pile these riffs, and I think this one in particular works better than a lot of the other Cure albums, even in the sense that every little like riff is really memorable and stuff. I feel like it's just as catchy as a lot of the lyrics and the melodies and stuff, or like you just get these little like like Lullaby or something. It's like a dum 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 dum, you know, and you kind of get those parts stuck in your head just as much as anything else. But I don't know. Did you kind of feel that way, where like some of the guitar parts or bass lines were kind of like the main catchiness of the song?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I'm not I play bass. I don't call myself a bassist, but I love a simple, awesome bass riff, and there's definitely a lot of that.
Yeah, they just lay them down and they're catchy shit. But would your writing style, anything that would take from that, or you just feel like it's definitely just a whole different style too? Or?
Yeah, I don't know. I have to think about that one. I think.
Well, I guess more general. When you do write kind of like melody comes to you first, or what's your general?
Changes. It's different. Sometimes it's just a riff or whatever. I think every song is different.
That's good.
I haven't been writing too many lately, but
yeah. I mean, I think that's probably the best way most musicians will change it up. I mean, I don't think anyone hopefully.
Do you have a specific like?
I have ones I do more than others, but I try like different ones just to spice it up or whatever. But I tend to just be like, I'll just mess around with chord progressions on a guitar and just kind of keep it in the back of my head that sounded cool. And then I have like words that I just write down, like phrases or whatever, and then I get them to fit over that. And then that tends to be the more go-to, especially now that parenting style of songwriting, where you just keep everything kind of in the background of the head, and that one day you get to like put it all together. So, but I mean, I tend to usually like write, like I'll just have a couple lines I like, and I write like 3 songs using the same lines, and then I pick like the best one, and like one of them makes it further, and like that idea. But I mean, I love it. I've even tried this a bunch of times, especially recording wise, like Cure style, because when they finally put out like a lot of reissues, they had like his demos on it, and you can hear how he'll just kind of have like a drum machine loop kind of going, like a cool beat, and then he'll like play the bass line, you can tell, and like lyrics are definitely like the vocal melody, even like he might have an idea, but he just kind of waits till the end. Like most of their demos don't even have any vocals on it, and it's like definitely all these two are just kind of like totally blank, and you could tell you kind of just write the vocal melody over like the finished music almost, which seems really hard for me. Like I kind of always just come up with
definitely never did that,
and then like make it fit over some chords and change it. But yeah, so that's cool. I like trying to do it, but I can't do it. You know, it's just like I would love to like have like a band or something where you could just have like people you could mess around with for hours, or you could like just be like, all right, we got that recorded, now let's do some vocal stuff, because it'd be fun, I think. But I don't know.
Well, it kind of sounds a little bit like jamming.
Yeah, you know? I know. which is the worst idea in the world. But yeah, I guess if you're jamming Cure stuff, see, it's another one of those exceptions I'll make, I guess. But yeah, I'm usually pretty anti-jamming. So.
Yeah, totally. It's interesting.
It's weird. Yeah, I don't know. Moving on, any of these kind of in-between ones, there's a lot of these like kind of ones that had like just cool drums like Close Down and Last Dance. I kind of feel like those were the ones that grew on me more over the years and stuff.
Yeah.
Love songs in the middle. Lullaby, maybe that's a good one to address.
That's a good one.
Had you heard that going into? That was like their biggest hit actually in England, which is weird. That was even like a bigger hit than Friday in Love or Love Song. But
that one I think was a little familiar, but not super familiar.
Cool. Did the lyrics kind of outweigh what was going on musically when you heard it, or did it all kind of fit? I mean, just the fact that it's like a creepy spider coming in and eating them in the middle of the night. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I didn't get that at all, actually. Sometimes I don't get the lyrics of something until like really far down the road.
Yeah, that's good. But,
and when I did, I don't know. Yeah.
That's just one of those debates where it's like a metaphor, obviously. But if anyone's gonna sing about a giant spider coming in and eating you in the middle of the night, it's probably Robert Smith.
Yeah.
But that's cool. But yeah, that's a weird one. Just like the music because it is peppy again, but and it's weird because they talk about like we said with the poppiness of Love Song, and I'm not sure. Like I almost feel like Lullaby doesn't fit on there more than any of the other ones, but at the same time it fits so much, and it would be really weird on any other album, so it's perfect, you know. But yeah, it is weird because all the other ones sound like so much emotional, really personal shit going on. And then you have like this one song about like a spider eating you in the middle of the night. It's like, what? It gets a little too sci-fi or horror movie or something. It's like, what are you talking about? And then Fascination Street is the other big single. That one's just kind of cool bass line, I think, carries the whole thing. So good rocking one for that. Prayers for Rain, just a good... Anything. This gets to side B where they actually start putting like rain samples and water drowning. So there's a lot of... It's like, okay, we're going here, I guess. It's like literally pouring rain so much that we're drowning now. Any of those stand out, or just kind of that being... I
can't quite remember right now exactly the difference between those, or I can't picture them in my mind.
Same Deep Water as You is a real long one, probably the longest one on, I think like 9 minutes or something.
Yeah, actually,
super
I do remember
sad.
that. Yeah,
it's like the one that's my go-to, like this is the saddest, possibly the saddest of all Cure songs even, but yeah, I love it, but it's that one's a lot to kind of like.
Intense.
It's just like jeez, but still fun. So many good riffs, and I love like just the idea of like these little guitar parts that aren't even like riffs or solos. It's just like just like plucking up these melodies, but it's like, how would you even think of that? You would almost think it's too minimal, you know? Like, I gotta fill it in more, but it's just like, it's almost like the shit in between the notes is just like, like it gets you just as much as the notes, I feel like.
That's the best.
But, and then Disintegration, we said that peps it up until you're very aggressive, but where it gets a little more hostile, where he's kind of yelling by the end and stuff, and the shattering glass sample and stuff like that, but... and then ends of the two kind of, I feel like they're kind of closing action. Is that what it's called in English class when you're wrapping up the story?
Okay,
Untitled's a huge favorite of mine. I don't know if you felt like that was a suitable ending, or...
I guess I didn't really listen to that. I'm not sure.
That's cool. Just throwing my ideas at you now at this point, sorry. But it's cool because it kind of fades out, and I'll probably talk about this a billion in the next few episodes too, of just like how I love a song that like where each member kind of drops out one at a time, and it's like really cool because then fits with the whole disintegration idea too. And it's like, oh, even the songs disintegrate. But I don't know. So that wraps it up. I guess it's only 12 songs, but long. The album before it was the big double album, and everybody always debates, oh, that's too much, it's too much. But like, I wrote it down for the notes of the other episode, but I think it's only like 5 minutes shorter than that. So it doesn't feel like 12 songs. It's pretty long, right? Did you feel like, oh god, I gotta take a break on a few listens, or did you? Or did it usually blow through pretty quick?
I think it's long. It's a long album, and it's because it stays at that mood.
Yeah,
like, you feel that length
mood to carry for a while.
and there's this length in the intros. There's this length in the in the music itself that I think it just invites you to. Like, we're gonna do this. This isn't just like, throw it on and whatever. Like, you're coming down into this world and you're gonna hang out here for a while, and we're gonna stay there.
Do you think that's a good or bad thing?
I think it's a good thing. It just depends on what you want
that day.
yeah,
for sure.
I was thinking about it because I'm a music therapist. What do you think? Like, playing some of these,
so you've to delve into that angle too. We could totally that's some pretty heavy stuff, but I'm assuming
it is.
Patients, like, because you played for hospice patients, just to briefly cover that. You could probably describe it in better words than what I'm gonna say, but like the idea of just playing music therapy for people in hospice, so it's not a good outcome. I won't, ultimately, I guess, depending on your situation, could be good, but it's tough. They probably want peppier stuff. Was that more of their request, or did people?
No, because I think and in general, music therapy, not just with like hospice, is like we meet people where they are.
Okay.
People don't usually, if they're sad, they don't usually want to listen to MC Hammer or something. They don't want to just be forced out of where they're at. Like, they want to be where they are so that they can just, really feel it, and then maybe they'll move somewhere else after that. So, I was kind of resisting it because I'd kind of been feeling that awkwardness, and then it was like, oh man, this is really reflecting the awkwardness that I felt. Like, it's like making me have to feel it. So it did its job for me that day. But I don't know. I think I don't know. Yeah, this could definitely be used in music therapy. I mean,
I don't want to hear, but that's why I just kind of assume it's good to hear that people kind of do want to dwell in it a bit. I always thought that I would probably be like some exception. I was like, nah, I want the sad shit while I'm dying. I don't want to be like, just
fake it.
I just kind of assumed that would be like that's what the normal person would probably want to hear, like the whole Amazing Grace peppy version or something. It's like, fuck that. I want to hear Same Deep Water as You as I'm like fading into the afterworld.
Because it doesn't make sense. I mean, I've had people ask me for stuff because they're trying to fix it, and they're like, let's hear, what is it, Hank Williams, like, what's his, like, super peppy song,
why can't I think of it? I'm in care mode. I can't think of it.
I can't. Like, that just doesn't even compute with what we're talking. So, anyways,
but it's like, kind of in the same vein, strangely. His other songs, not that one. But
his other songs. But then like you play that, and it just doesn't make any sense for anybody, and it just makes everyone feel weird. So
like, I'm fucking dying over here.
Like, I don't want like this doesn't even
make yourselves feel better, but I'm still the one dying.
Yeah. Like, let's be real. So.
Oh, how about this one?
Okay.
You're in the Motley Crue and Kokomo. If you heard this when you're in 1989, or give yourself a couple more years, 6th grade. Yeah. What do you think? Would it have done anything for you? Or?
That's a good question. I think, like, I'm trying to think of any album that I listened to that was kind of on the dark side of, like, I remember I listened to Dinosaur Jr. And that was more like 7th grade or something, and I really loved that album. And that's kind of, it's not as dark as this.
Yeah. They covered Just Like Heaven. You ever hear the Dinosaur Jr.? Yeah, I mean, it just sounds totally like Dinosaur. Like,
right.
But and Robert Smith's a pretty big fan, so definitely some crossover.
Yeah, like, and then like, I don't know. I was thinking of other things that were like it to me, or in that same. But I don't know if 6th grade I was there yet.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know.
That's probably you're healthy. Yeah, most people probably shouldn't be feeling this till like high school. Like having a child, I'd be a little worried if he's sitting around obsessing over this record. I would be a little like, ooh. It's like, I mean, it's really fucking good, but you should probably be listening to a little something funner. But I wasn't like a sad kid, really. I don't think.
So how did you? I mean, where did you? You had heard that previous album, so you're waiting.
Yeah, like I guess. Yeah, leading up to this one, I had a friend that had like all their stuff, or like there was like one like the greatest hits kind of deal. It was like their singles, so I got really into that, and initially liked the poppy stuff, like In Between Days and stuff, and then kind of went back one at a time while waiting for this album to come out, and really dug in. So by the time this came out, I was like on board with pretty much everything. I was like, oh yeah, I like the dark shit, I like the fun stuff, and I even remember getting this, and I was kind of wanting it to be the album before it, and pretty much all the ones after it, in a sense, are like kind of half and half, where they kind of put like the dark shit in there, but then they'll throw like a poppy one, you know, like to spice it up a little more. Like they don't usually go all one way or the other, you know. And even getting this one on first listen, I was like, whoa, this is like. I was like, Pictures of You is definitely my jam, but like I was like, it's gonna take some listens. I gotta dig in. And
Exactly.
I was like, and like the first song I loved, like just all the strings and stuff, but I was like, just like mumbling, like I can't understand. I was reading all the lyrics and stuff. I was like, these lyrics are great, but like, I was like, what the fuck is he singing and talking about? You know, and I just knew that I was gonna have to work a little bit, but at the same time, I was on board. But yeah, I mean, it was never like a conscious, like, all right, this is my darkness coming through in an album or something. So I was just be like, all right, cool. But yeah, it was more I kind of turned to it when I knew like anything would go bad. I'm like, yeah, all right, Disintegration's there waiting for me. At least this will be okay. You know?
Yeah.
So at least I have this. And yeah, so. And I think it reassured it too by having like the success of this album. Like I think if it like flopped and didn't have like Love Song be like their biggest hit and stuff, it would have been kind of a little more suspect, you know. Like I was kind of like, haha, see, they do have like pop potential, you know, like they are great, you know, and that justified it, which was weird. You would think that a kid would be like, no, this should be all mine, and that. But I was like so happy like that they got chart success and stuff, you know. So I was like, so it kind of justified it or something. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. So
what else were you listening to?
Little everything. Like I said, like the top 5, and pretty much stayed that way. I've added in a few, but like it was New Order and the Smiths and the Cure.
Wow.
And like I liked like Erasure a lot and stuff like that too. So there was definitely some like more fun stuff, and Thompson Twins even thrown into the mix. Yeah. So there was like a few that definitely haven't made it into stuff that I really regularly listen to now. Like those few singles are cool. OMD was one that was like I was really into them. Like the If You Leave band, they did the song in Pretty in Pink, like the If You Leave.
Right.
That was like their big hit. But yeah, I loved like all their stuff. But then I like through the 90s was kind of like, man, that was just like dorky 80s music. But then it came back and I was like, oh yeah, that's genius. I was like, I was smarter in 6th grade than I was now.
Everyone sort of rejected the 80s when the 90s came around. But...
Yeah, it was definitely that moment where you kind of re-realized. I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. But so there's a lot of that stuff, and still kind of just feeling out a few bands that didn't stick around. But yeah, it's strange that they were kind of like number one at that point and pretty much stayed there ever since. So it's a little weird, but I don't know. So I guess lasting impressions and wrapping up. We're kind of on the tail end there. If there's anything I didn't address that you would like to say, but. I don't know, you think it's a decent album then? How many stars would you give it out of 5?
I would really have to actually listen to it more to be able to rate it. I feel like it's just not one that you can listen to just a couple times and really know. I really can't say.
Yeah,
I really can't say.
Cool.
But my kids did have a glow stick. Like we turn off the lights. This wasn't planned. But they had glow sticks. It was on. Turn off the lights, and they...
Ryan's probably, Jesus Christ. Are we really doing this? That's That's awesome.
Fun was had by all. Like, so, I mean, it's not that dark.
Yeah, you can
like
have
doing
fun
glow sticks and dancing, so.
It is versatile, I feel like. Yeah, because I feel like it does get kind of tarnished with the gloominess. But, I mean, it is like I said, it is strange in the sense that you can pull out of it whatever you're feeling, too. Which I think is, like, the perfect goal of any music, you know? It's like, if you want to fucking just drown in it, you can, or you can just put it on and have a great time. I've definitely had it playing, you know, at parties and feel great, you know, or something.
Yeah, I think
it's so strange.
Yeah, it is strange that it could do that. Like, definitely could have a good conversation and a rowdy conversation. And because
like the sad stuff just gets kind of like pushed under while you're carrying on or something, and then like the cool beats and everything really stand out. I mean, it's just kind of a testament of the writing. I think they just kind of hit it at that point where it was like they just couldn't not be catchy in a sense. It's like even when they're being sad, they're like able to like harness the pop sensibility that they've kind of crafted over the years leading into this, and and that's.
I just think theatrical is really a lot of it too. Because even.
Did you feel like you pictured all that, like, while you heard it and stuff? So it did kind of affect it, you think? Like, hearing it, like, listening to it, where you kind of...
I think his voice is also theatrical, you know?
I guess I never going to address that. That's a huge thing for a lot of people. Like, I try to, like... back then, it's been forever since I tried to introduce anybody to the Cure, so this is fun and different again. But usually it is the vocals where everyone's just like, whoa, he's just like, all over the place. And did it strike you a little weird at first, or just...
It is weird. I mean, but all the great voices are, right?
True.
So, I like it, and I don't think it's... I think it's almost a character.
Yeah.
So I see... that's my impression, is that it's a character, somewhat. And that a lot of it is more like a play. It's almost like a play.
True. Yeah, I could see that. And I think even... kind of addresses that on some level. On a lot of things you read, he says, like, not so much that it's not sincere, but he steps into a role, because the lyrics are so, like, lyric wise, are so, like, kind of vaguely perfect, you know, where it's just it's some situation that only he's ever gonna really know what the hell he's talking about. But at the same time, you can identify it, like the music, where you can feel good to it, or just think it's about, you know, his wife or his, you know, long lost whatever dog. It could be anything. You know, you really don't know. And I think he's pretty good at disguising it anyway, or shifting it to be whatever you want. But he says, you know, I kind of get on stage and get into it, and that's like you're saying, a character in a sense. It's like a theatrical thing where you just get into the role, and everyone always assumes that he's just moping around like that constantly. He's like, no, fuck no, I'm a happy dude. I've had success, and
it's just a part of humanity that he's embodying to me. Like, you know, it's just a part of all of us. And he's taken on that role to just express that whatever
makes total
that is.
sense. I get that for sure, and it's perfect. Because that means that it really is like kind of fine tuned to like that situation. I think, you know, and. By stepping into that role, it is cool to make it a little more finite, where it's not this dude that you have to like, remember in track 3 when he said this, it also applies to what he's saying in track 7. It's like, no, that could be like a totally different person even, you know, like it could be multiple characters, which is what songwriting's all about, you know. Nobody holds Springsteen to like every song he's singing. He's definitely Dylan.
It's like that definitely wasn't you when you drove away and all that stuff.
Like, no, man, it's a whole other character.
Like you weren't working down at the whatever.
Right. So it's something to take in perspective, and I do think a lot of Cure fans kind of feel like it is all him, and it shouldn't have to be the dude that got eaten by the spider. Isn't the guy? You know, singing Friday I'm in Love. It's not the same character necessarily. So could be, but we don't know, you know, and that's kind of cool. It doesn't have to be. Damn, that's cool. I like that. I hadn't thought of that before. There's always something there. Cool. Yeah, curious to dig into any other Cure albums. Do you feel like that's... I'm not going down that.
I feel like this one can last me for a long time. As far as like, you know, it's just not.
That's cool. Well, I hope you continue to enjoy it. maybe hear some remixes. We'll have you back for the remixes.
All right.
But yeah, there are some good extended remixes of these that were on the next thing that we were talking about earlier. But
cool.
But yeah, thanks so much. Anything else you want to add on before we roll on?
I don't think so.
Got your cure fixed. Well, thanks so much for the fresh ears. I think it's totally fun to hear that. And now I'm gonna go talk to Donald and see what some old ass ears of mine. 29 years we've been listening. That's crazy. I think it's almost 30 years of listening to an album. So.
It's amazing.
I don't even know. Yeah, I just kind of felt like when we were getting ready to talk about it, I was like, anything we even say at this point isn't even like valid. I feel like just like so biased and so much like history and like sentimental shit wrapped up into it. That like, I don't know, this could be like I honestly didn't know what you were gonna think. I was like, man, she's like, this is a complete piece of crap. I don't know what you've heard in this, but so I was like, all right, cool, we'll see. But I'm glad you enjoyed it on some level.
Yeah, definitely did. Definitely, awesome. Really enjoyed the experience.
Painful. Yeah. Like if I gave you like some Barry Manilow album, like dig in, really, just give it like 20 listens.
Like, I'll do it for you, Gavin. But,
too kind. Well, thanks so much, and thanks for partaking in the show angle of this. It's not everybody's bag to talk for an hour.
It wasn't my bag either, but I tried.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon. We sign off with the great line from Pump Up the Volume, the Christian Foot Slater. Talk hard. You don't have to say it. I'll say it.
Talk hard.
Talk hard. There we go. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you soon. All right, again, a very special thank you to Emily. Such a good sport, such great insight. Can't thank you enough. And thanks to you guys out there for listening. We hope some of this fresh ears perspective carried over to you too. And we look forward to diving in to lots of Disintegration details coming up next on the Holy Hour podcast. So be sure to subscribe on iTunes so you don't miss the Disintegration episode and others, about 74 other episodes out there. So backtrack, find some, and go on over to the Facebook page. There you can find little tidbits that go along with every episode, and maybe we'll have some for this one. So go on over there and check out, see what's waiting for you. Little bonus stuff, some video clips, and cure related material. And on Instagram, the Holy Hour Podcast is waiting there, where you can catch updates, pictures, and that's where we throw out our feelers for topics. If you want to contribute to the Holy Hour Podcast, which we would love to hear from you out there, any cure-related stories or thoughts on given topics, basically anything, we'll make it fit. So feel free to contact us there or drop me an email, gavinconner@gmail.com. And I also wanted to send a special thanks to everybody that participated in last week's t-shirt contest hosted by Chaz through his Instagram account, 17_seconds. And I hope the lucky winner loves their In Orange t-shirt. And for everybody that didn't quite win, keep your eyes peeled on his Instagram page, where you'll soon be able to find out how you can order one of those shirts. And then you will be happy and fulfilled, and it'll be worth it. So go on over there and keep your eyes peeled. I know I'll be getting one, and we'll all post pictures soon. And that about covers it. Lots of good stuff on the horizon. It's 1989 in Cure Land, so come along for the ride. Again, thanks to Emily, and we'll talk to you next time on the Holy Hour Podcast.
To shout.